call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Barb, do a roll call, please.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Present.
Councilmember Jerry Debate.
Here.
Joe Muehlbauer.
Here.
Robert Cullen.
Here. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
All right. Mr. Vade makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Muehlbauer makes a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. All right. On to the city council. Let's see. A meeting open to the public. Do we have anybody, Barb?
Yes. Eric Schmoll.
Eric Schmoll.
St. Francis Area Chamber.
Okay. Did I move forward too fast? Oh, yes, I did.
Wait,
Sorry.
we need
My
to
mistake.
approve the agenda,
I need to
Mr.
approve the
Mayor.
agenda. Sorry, I just jumped a little bit.
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
All right, and Mr. Vade makes the motion. I'll make a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now on to the meeting open to the public. Thank you, by the way, for pointing that out.
Hello, good evening. I'm Eric Schmoll, president of the St. Francis Area Chamber of Commerce. And just coming tonight, I tried to get on the agenda, but I emailed over a letter to the city, just in regards to planning for upcoming Pioneer Days. So I'll just read the letter, and then you guys will have it all included later today or the next meeting's packet. So, dear city and council members, on behalf of St. Francis Area Chamber of Commerce and our Pioneer Days Committee, I'd like to thank you for your years of donations to our annual city event, St. Francis Pioneer Days. We'd like to request the same donation as last year, $10,000, or any amount that you're able to contribute, and these funds are used to sponsor the events and entertainment to help keep Pioneer Days a fantastic, fun, and engaging weekend for our community. It is because of your generous donations that Pioneer Days is a free event to our citizens and guests. Please let me know if there are any questions or need anything from us. We appreciate all the planning and coordination and cooperation that the City of St. Francis provides throughout the year to assist with St. Francis Area Chamber of Commerce and all of our Pioneer Days volunteers in providing a great event. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work. All right, so Joe, can we place that next time? How do we do this?
We can discuss it going into the next meeting. I will say that per past council minutes, 2017 was going to be the last year the donation is made. We can obviously reevaluate that and bring it back next week.
All right, Eric, can you come back up to the podium, please? I have a couple of questions here to ask. So from what I gather here in this, because I just got this before the meeting, so it's kind of new to me, but there was a 3-year deal that we were paying this for 3 years, and then it was supposedly that you guys were going to be self-sustaining on your own. How has that worked out, or how is that going?
So it's been working very well. We've been keeping some reserve funds built up as well. This year didn't end up turning to where we were at profit. We ended up being $4,500 in the red. So we still had enough reserves to cover that portion, but just we're always working with different amounts of how much more marketing can we do and outreach. We had a storm on Sunday that really helped out some carnival things and stuff that can happen. So we're really trying to plan ahead for the future on any weather events or just having enough reserves so we're not kind of bad year where maybe there's nobody that comes on hold we can do other that we would sustain.
So how would you like the council to proceed? Would you like, I mean, on a year-to-year basis, or on a period of time, or what is a better way? I'm sure you want it the longest you can get it, but I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it worked well initially, and we certainly don't need as much as before as initially, because we have got it built up to where we're starting to get some of those efficiencies and knowing how to manage things a little bit more efficiently each year. But it's just nice to know what we have to work with as far as some of the vendors that we're committing to and different sets.
Okay, so when you say your 10,000 or any amount that you are able to contribute, what is our range here to work with? I mean,
well, it's really up to what's going to be comfortable with your budget. I mean, it's not that we're going to stop promoting or hosting Pioneer Days if there was no contribution from the city, but it just gives us a little bit more flexibility in not having to only rely on outside donors.
okay. So once again, I mean, would it be prudent to do it on a year-by-year basis, or would it be better to do a long-term situation? I'm just asking.
It helps us with long-term planning, even if it was, say, a 3-year block or time frame that you want to go like that, but if it worked and it worked better for the city budget on year by year, that works too, where we can keep reviewing each year how the turnout of the event was and what the cost fluctuated.
Okay. Any other contributions from the council on this at all? Any thoughts at all? Or just take it up at another meeting, but I just want to let that go out there. Okay. All right. All right, well, we'll be letting you know. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Okay. Anybody else, Barb? No? That was it? All right, moving on to public hearings. 2018-2022 Capital Improvement Plan. So we got to make a motion for public hearings, is that it, or notification?
Yep, you can discuss the public hearing at the council level and then open it up for public comment. Once all public comment is received, you can close the public hearing and note the time. That's all the action that's really required.
Because we've already done the publication on it and all that, right?
It has been worked out through work sessions with the council.
All right. So, let me get to this point here. 7. All right, so you need a council, you want a motion to approve this or open it up to a public hearing now?
Nope, just you guys can discuss it, but open it up to public comment. Once all comments have been received, then you can close the public hearing. And
All right. Well, then at, what is it, 6:07, I open it up to the public hearing. Anyone come forth to discuss this with us? Anyone at all? Joe Milrell.
What are we discussing?
Our community development.
7A, if it's in the packet, it's 7A.
What page?
Community is a capital improvement plan.
In the back?
the plan's on the website.
What's on the website?
Is it not in that packet?
No, it's a really lengthy document, so it's just easy to have on the website.
I'll read you the overview, okay? Each year, the city must approve the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years by August 15th. The proposed capital improvement plan was put out on the website back in June, and then please go to the departments and then finance on the city's website. This plan also shows the years of 2023 to 2027. This is for informational purposes only. This will hopefully allow us to better plan for future equipment needs. In 2015, the city combined the fire truck replacement fund with the capital equipment fund. Amounts are designated for the replacement of the fire trucks and other fire equipment. With this change, we are hoping to level out the amount needed each year going into this fund, and any monies not spent would be left in the fund to build up reserves for the following years. Funding for the capital equipment is coming from transfers from water and sewer of $10,000 each per year, and for 2017, $223,150 from the general tax levy. It actually be considered from the council needs to have the public hearing on the CIP for this period of time. After the hearing has been concluded, this capital improvement plan would need to be approved. Now, this is not the community development plan, it's the capital improvement plan.
Super cool. So you're telling me you raise everybody's water rate so we could buy new fire trucks?
That's not what we did. We're trying to make a fund.
Sounded that way. Vaguely, $10,000 for
No,
capital.
no, that's not what it.
I might have misconstrued.
I think you did. Amounts are designated for the replacement of fire trucks as needed and other fire equipment as needed, not on a continuous basis, but as needed.
Thank you.
Better to plan and prepare to have the money in place than not to have the money in place and then go to your pocketbooks.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay? That makes sense? Okay. Any other? Mike?
Mr. Mayor and Council, in that plan, would we be looking to add a ladder truck into that? For the fire
Well,
department?
let me turn that over to the chief. Let's see what he says.
At this point, I have no interest or design in adding a ladder truck. We do have those resources available to us through our mutual aid partners. But at this time, with the way the infrastructure of this community is set up, I think it would be more of a want than a need at this point.
Do you realize, Chief, that we do have a 3-story building coming into this town and you have no capability of fighting it yourself?
Yes, sir, I am aware that we do have a 3-story building coming into it.
My question is that if we run into a situation as we did in past years where we had the grass fires so bad up here that every local fire department and the DNR, I don't know if you were here at that time yet, Rob, but they were all fighting those grass fires, and there was nobody left in here to fight any city fires. So saying that, if, say, Oak Grove is, I don't know where we'd be getting the hook and ladder from, but if Oak Grove is where we'd be getting it, I don't know what city has it, but if they're gone, then what we do?
Well, our ladder company would come from East Bethel, not Oak Grove. But we do have other partners that we can rely on. The Anoka County system works out in agreement with every fire department throughout the county, and we also include Isani County in that mix. So what we do is we get the benefit not only coming to us in our time of need, but we also give that same help in somebody else's time of need. We also have an agreement with the DNR specifically to wildland assistance. There is no community out there that can handle every single event and be prepared for every single event with every type of apparatus and every type of resource available. What we do need to do is be very judicious and understand what our priorities and what our needs are on a community basis for the 90 percentile of our runs and incidents. And I think we've done a pretty good job historically of doing that in this community.
I would just like to see Mr. Mayor and Council to take that into consideration for future growth of the city.
And I thank you for that. And also to let you know, there is also grant money available from the USDA for that type of equipment. So if that comes down to it, we can look at that. But, you know, so.
Mayor,
go ahead.
if I may interject, probably about 4 years ago, there was a joint fire department task force put together to work with 5 cities in our area, the city of St. Francis, now then Oak Grove, Ramsey, and Bethel. And during that task force, we set up a really good relationship, and we always had a fairly good relationship with most of those cities, but you know, I think our relationship with Ramsey really blossomed, and the city of Ramsey also has a ladder truck. And what kind of came out of that task force to try to help reduce costs is it's not really effective for every city to have every piece of equipment that they need, because number one, you have to house that equipment, you have to maintain that equipment, and then it's not really unheard of to have a fire department or to have a fire truck that might be 20 years old with 3,000 miles on it. However, the pumps just become obsolete, so trying to rebuild a pump, you just can't get parts. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the truck, but now you have an obsolete truck that you can't replace parts on. So what came out of that, by doing this mutual aid and sharing, to having all this fire equipment available to us, is we're able to not put out the capital expense to have this stuff, but it's still available. You know, we're borrowing it from our neighbors. And then in addition to that, we also get the advantage of a decreased ISO rating. What ISO is it's a rating that the lower the rating, the cheaper your insurance rates are to insure your house. That's why when you insure your home, they ask, how close are you to the fire department? How close are you within 200 feet from a fire hydrant? And then they would look at this ISO rating to see how ready your fire department is. And it goes by response time and how quickly we can get fire trucks mobilized and the amount of water and tankers available and whatnot. And by utilizing this mutual aid, we get a lower ISO rating, so our homeowners insurance here in St. Francis is a lot cheaper than would be by having all this other equipment available. And the advantage is we don't have to pay for it, because a ladder truck is, we're talking $1 million. I mean, they are very, very expensive, and for the possibility of never ever using it, it's just much more economically and feasible to, when we need it, to have one come from a neighboring city that's really close.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, but I don't think that's what he's bringing up here. He's bringing up, you know, and I agree with you, Dave, that if it's not a want, it's not a need, it's a want. So, but I understand what you're saying, Mike, by the way, is that if that time arises where we do need one, more than want one, then we have to look at it, and there's grant monies available. So I guess it's we'll have to take it under keep open-minded about it, but at this particular point in time, that structure's not even up yet. We don't know when that's really coming, Joe, as of the assisted living, we don't have no concrete date. So, but I agree with you, we should keep an open-minded to it, like anything. So it's on the table, but not in concrete.
One other thing I'd like to see happen is maybe take something in that planning and let's get a tornado siren out on the east end of town, you know, so we can hear it.
Well, are we not, from the last meeting, are we not working with somebody with the sirens and that? We are doing that, right?
Yep.
Because I was also at a JLEC meeting with our chief, and I sat right next to the gentleman about that, talking about that. So they are aware of it.
And by the way, Jerry, $1 million is cheap compared to losing a life.
True.
Thank you.
All right, by the way, when you come up to speak at the podium, anybody, name and address, so we get it on the record, so just let everybody know that, okay? I know it's redundant for you, but we just want to get it in the record, get it correct, okay? Any further input before I close it?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say is I have an issue with any money coming out of the water and sewer fund for anything at this point, rather than paying for the facility. I mean, 10,000 might be nickel and dimes and all that compared to the big scheme of things, but for me, I mean, I get we don't want to raise taxes, but at the same time, $10,000 is $10,000 towards the facility.
All right, so let's ask Darcy a question. Why, explain to us why, I mean, you have the general fund tax levy and then the sewer and water at $10,000 each. Why is it separate?
We came up with the $10,000 because the street department shares a lot of equipment between the streets, parks, water and sewer. And so that helps pay for a small portion of that equipment.
Then the expenses are kind of allocated across all the departments.
Right. But I'm
that
saying
use
to the public, I
equipment.
want them
Yep.
to understand that.
Yep.
So, okay.
Mr. Mayor, the problem that I have with the sewer and water money coming out, residents that live on city sewer and water are paying into the general fund, and they're also paying this $10,000 wastewater portion. So we're asking residents that live on city sewer and water to actually pay more than all of our residents. I think it should come out of the general fund so that all residents pay an equal share.
But, you know, Mr. Mayor, if I may, aren't the residents that are on city and sewer and water, aren't they getting more? I mean, they're getting more service than somebody that wouldn't be on the fund. You know,
Explain that in layman terms. Well, I mean,
okay,
'cause, you know,
okay, for example, if I am on city sewer and water and I'm getting that service for city sewer and water, and you are on your own well, you're not getting that service for city sewer and water. So any expenses should be allocated to, it's kind of a...
For Public Works that directs, does work.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a general rule.
Well, that's why
for
we're bringing
accounting.
this up so the public
We want to
understands.
allocate the expenses to where they're actually incurred at versus spreading the expenses out over, I mean, why should all the money come out of the general fund if the expenses aren't being incurred in a general fund account?
And this is one of the situations where the city is changing. It's not as rural as it was before. It's becoming more directly to the city, and we're developing it more in the city and in the rural end.
No, I understand that, but I think one of the rules with the enterprise funds are supposed to be self-sustaining. And the expenses would be incurred in this enterprise fund.
The equipment that we're buying is used for the entire city, though.
Yep. So what you would do is, say for example, you have a pickup truck. Monday you're going to use it on streets. Tuesday you're going to use it on parks. Thursday you're going to use it for water, or Wednesday you're going to use it for water, and Thursday you're going to use it for your sewer. Then you want to allocate, I mean that's 4 days, you allocate 1/4 to each department that would use that over that time period. You know, you charge, I don't know, whatever that time is.
Right, but Rob is saying, if I gather what he's saying is is that if you keep it on the general fund, it's spread around the bigger tax base on a rural and city basis. So it doesn't define it as just city sewer, this and, you know, am I getting that right? This is what you're thinking is? And so it's maybe just maybe a naming of it or whatever, but is it possible that, I mean, I don't have to even transfer the funds into the general fund and take it out of there. Is it just more semantics than anything else? I mean, how to explain it, but, you know, I understand what you're saying, I also understand what he's saying, and I'm trying to make the public understand it. So, what basically Rob is again saying is don't punish the city sewer and water people for something that may be used in another area. So, is that about right?
That's about right.
Okay, so we'll keep it as simple as possible. But explain to me, Darcy, can it be done any other way that makes sense, or is this the only way to do it for the numbers? For the numbers.
You can take that transfer out of there, that's fine, but then your general tax, your levy would have to go up for that by $20,000. But then the water and sewer fund aren't contributing to its expenses. Like, you know, we don't have trucks coming out of the water and sewer fund at all. We don't pay for a whole truck out of the water and sewer fund ever. We just decided to even it out and do this small.
This seemed to be the
transfer
best accounting way to do it.
Yes.
Okay, so we can keep the levy at zero or not increase it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've had this in here for several years now.
Right.
We
And
switched
I
to
basically
that.
want to do this because I want to explain to the public why we're doing what we're doing.
In years back, when we would buy a truck, we'd actually break down that truck into, you know, a fourth into water, a fourth into sewer, a fourth into streets, and a fourth into public works, or into parks.
And hopefully the one paying for it had the actual key to the big.
And it was very cumbersome, so we came up with this system to, you know.
So basically what it comes down to, once again, is this is more of an accounting way to justify how to get it to where we get it.
Mhm.
Okay. Does that make
It is a
more
small
sense?
contribution, that's why I was curious about that.
Right, but a question asked has to be answered, and that's what we believe it
To
said.
the equipment, the trucks and everything else that are used for that, the water and sewer.
Okay.
It's
All
very
right.
small.
That makes sense to me. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So we gotta close the public hearing and then.
Well, I want to ask if anybody else wants to come forth. Is that it? No further comment from the public, or I think Sarah's going to be getting up
That's
here?
for later.
That's for later? Okay. All right, well, barring any further discussion in the the public hearing, I close it at 6:22. So, let's see. Now I need a motion to approve it. All right. Do I have a motion to approve 2018 to 2022 capital improvement plan?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. DeVay makes that motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All right, I have a second from Mr. Bauer. Any further discussion? Barring none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, now we're going to move on to old business. This is ISD number 15, ordinance 227, second series, first reading, amending the St. Francis zoning ordinance regarding the surfacing of event parking areas and conditional use permit request resolution 2017-08.
It's an ordinance without 5.
You can do it.
4, right?
So, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, in order to process this land use request in front of you, the ordinance would have to be approved first and then the conditional use permit after that. You got an engineering memo that was sent by Hawkinson Anderson. They reviewed the materials. And just to note, there is a deadline on this application of today. So if it does not get approved effectively, it would have to be denied. Otherwise, it will automatically be approved by lack of action.
All right, so where can we have discussion on this right now? Or, right? Okay. Because I just got we just got this memorandum from Hawkinson, so, I drove by it today and I saw, the overlay on the county did, and I saw the turn lane going towards 235th, and I saw the fence up too, by the way. What I didn't see, by the way, is the egress and entrance, on 235th. That's still open, which we talked about barricading that through events, you know. You know what I'm talking about, Craig, as far as that
The
one?
maintenance entrance?
No, not the maintenance entrance, that's where the turn lane is, up from River. I'm talking about 235th, there's still, you know, they've done the fence around on the corner, they put that chain link up, but there's no you know, there's still an opening, you know, at the, on the going out and in from 235th.
Which is to the existing parking lot of the
Right.
previous parking lot.
And we talked about making that a permanent close so that the direction would come off Rum River, which is the whole idea of the turn lane.
But that could come the conditional use, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was totally addressed or finalized, but that was what was discussed.
Yeah, with
But in general, I did talk to the assistant county engineer today, and they are satisfied with the results of what they talked to with the school district. So as far as they're concerned, they're okay. The right turn didn't get put in, and there are provisions for a bypass lane when that intersection is approved. The only other thing on our end was basically all these comments are based on, we did send our wetland person out there. These are draining to what appear to be wetlands, and they don't do their infiltration or their ponding prior to that discharge. So that's really the only item outstanding for the most part.
Okay, so when you're talking about runoff here, being a class 5 recycle base versus asphalt, I mean, so do we have a concern about runoff into the pond area?
Yeah, it's considered impervious.
Right. The class 5 recycle bases?
Yes.
All right. Because it's compact in that,
Right.
supposedly.
They consider it impervious in the stormwater comps too.
So they consider it basically the same as asphalt.
Correct.
So that means that runoff at a high rainfall would run into the ponds.
Correct.
Okay. And
But there's a possibility that they were dug wetlands years ago. I don't know. There's no proof one way or the other. All
Yeah.
we can go by at this point is what's there today.
and you figure it on a 100-year rainfall amounts. So,
Correct.
so is Hawkinson Anderson satisfied with what they see there right now?
Other than the 1 inch of infiltration prior to discharge into the wells.
Okay. Okay. And
Which again also could be a condition of
yeah. Okay. So really, what we need to do is get more to the discussion of the conditional use. That would be more prudent, I think. You know, because I mean, I want to lay down the ground rules of this conditional use. Because to be honest with you, I mean, you know, to me, this seems to be such a Mickey Mouse way of doing it, because if they've done it right from the beginning, it should have been asphalt and old 9 yards, this would have been a done deal. And it should have been done coming forth to us first, as I've stated before, and then coming back to us after it's already in place. So it just makes it more difficult. So that's what kind of frustrates me. And again, the most frustrating part I have being here is that I don't like it when the council's back is pushed to the wall, because we have to react differently than we'd like to react. Because we're acting on something after the fact, which kind of bothers me. But we're at this particular point. So as far as what you've written us, you're satisfied with what they have. Now it's just a matter of how we can nail it down with the conditional use.
that. Correct.
Okay. Does that sound about right with everybody here? So what do you want from me right now then?
So I think the first order of business is amending the ordinance with a roll call motion.
A motion to approve ordinance 227? Okay. All right, at this time, I'll like to entertain a motion to approve ordinance ISD number 15, ordinance 227. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. DeVay makes that motion. Do I have a second? In fact, I'll make that second. Barring any further discussion? Oh, we have some discussion? Yeah, please.
I have a problem with changing the ordinances because our backs are against the wall. I oppose changing the ordinance for ISD 15, any other large business that's within St. Francis. We can't get in the habit of changing our ordinances to meet the needs of people that jump the gun. So that's my comment on changing the ordinance.
And that's a very good point. You know, I mean, and I happen to agree with you, because again, as I mentioned before, I don't like the council's back to the wall here, because it forces us to make a decision that we may not be comfortable with. But at this particular point, Joe, explain to me, I mean, it's already too far in. I mean, they have the chain link fence up, they've gone through all this with Hawkinson, they've also gone with the lot in place. I mean, so are we too far in? We can't really, You know, we need
I
a
would-
four-fifths vote here.
You can't.
Yeah, I would say this, we gave them more time to fulfill these requirements. They fulfilled these requirements. If this ordinance doesn't pass, that effectively, you know, you would then deny the condition. I mean, there's really probably no reason to consider the conditional use permit, but it would need a 4/5 to pass the ordinance. I guess the question is, why did we put this off if we're going to come back and deny it? I mean, they've come and they've done all the work and spent all the money on the engineering and everything else.
Well, then, let me put it like this. Let me go on record here and say this, okay? You know, we want to work with ISD 15. We have shown that. We've extended an olive branch, and we want to continue doing that for the betterment of the community, okay? So I want this on record here to understand this. You know, if we prove this tonight, don't do this again, because you may not get that answer you want the second time around, and I can guarantee they won't get that yes vote from me, okay? So I'm just going to say that right now on record, okay? Because I happen to agree with Rob on this backdoor issue here. Bothers me a lot, okay? And I will try to tie their hands up a little bit with the conditional use, so that is our one controlling factor. But I happen to agree with Councilman Bauer about this, that this was done in a way that it's like doing the crime and then doing, I don't know, I won't say a crime, but doing something and then asking for permission afterward if it was okay to do it, which I think is ridiculous. So I'm just going to go on record once again and say, if this vote goes down here like this and the ordinance is approved, this is not going to be one of those things that you can count on every time from this point on. Because if you do it again, that answer may not be the same as this one here. And I want that on the record, so you understand that. For anybody, not just ISD 15. So, any other further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question on the conditional, or the ordinance change, what's to say that any other business can't just put in gravel parking lots because now we opened that door?
Have we set a precedent?
Well, I think that the actual ordinance amendment relates to athletic fields, overflow parking areas related for athletic fields may be permitted with a gravel surface. So it specifically calls out areas adjacent to athletic fields.
So I would like to tie their hands a little bit more and lock it down to that lot, because I can see more gravel parking lots going in as the school decides they want to grow. So can we make the conditional or the ordinance state not just an athletic field, lot, whatever that parking lot belongs to?
Is that possible, Scott?
You'd have an ordinance amendment that would be limited use event or overflow parking lot areas and related drives for athletic fields at, when we put the location, and then continue maybe permitted with a gravel surface. So if ordinances typically are not passed for one particular use, it's for general application, albeit limited here. So, but again, that's for the council.
That's kind of where we're at now. We're opening the door to all of our businesses within the city to put in gravel parking lots.
I think the only door you're opening is pretty much for the school, given that they're the only ones that have athletic fields.
Well, it's true.
Well,
Unless the bowling alley puts in a gravel parking lot around their volleyball courts, because that's some sort of athletic event that they want to host. We're opening the door, and I think we need to
cover it behind a little bit.
Lock it down to that specific lot, or we're going to have gravel parking lots all the way around the school.
Kate, what do you think about that, what Rob is saying, as far as kind of finite it?
Mayor and Council, I think limiting it to just the one lot seems very restrictive, because the city also then would have the opportunity to use gravel around. But Scott, help me, I believe there's provisions in there that do require it to be a CUP. So if a business was to come forward to try to expand on our language, it would have the same process where we could put any types of conditions or review it on a project by project. So it doesn't open the door as broad as it may sound, because there is still the land use process that's tied to it.
So more on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
And then you have a conditional use that we'll be talking about here. Okay, I can live with that. And like I say, we want to work with ISD 15. There's no doubt about that. And I want to make that perfectly clear at ISD 15 here, okay? But we have rules, you have rules, and we have to obey those rules for the common good of the residents at large. That's what we work for, both sides. So, all right, Brian, is there any further discussion on this?
Well, the only thing I'd like to, it says action to be considered, one, we would amend the ordinance, and the second is the conditional use permit approval of resolution 20708. Have we discussed that conditional use enough to approve that?
So I think if the ordinance passes with the 4/5 vote, we would then move to the conditional use permit, discuss it. If we have to add conditions, we can add conditions, and then approve it.
Right, but that conditional use is under resolution 2017-08.
Which is not, the motion is simply for the ordinance.
So, for the ordinance, correct.
That's a resolution.
Right, the ordinance is what we're talking about now, and then conditional use will be on the resolution.
Just making sure.
All right, that's good. Any further discussion? All right, so this is going to be a roll call vote. I got that one right this time. Okay. All right, Barb?
Councilmember Robert Bauer,
Aye.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Jerry Debate.
Aye. All right, so now moving on to the conditional use part of this. And I want to get to this point here, so. Okay, the conditional use criteria, okay. Okay, now, and we've discussed this with ISD 15 and that, so, but I want to go over it so the public understands it as much, so. It says here, I'm going to read 9 points here, and I know you gentlemen at the ISD have already heard this, so I'm going to read it to the public, but all 9 points, Joe, is that correct? I can read it. Of the conditional use
Yep, so there,
recommendation.
there's 10 comments from the previous city engineer, and then we have 7 from the current city engineer. The conditional use lays out 10 points. Point number 1 being all comments from the city engineer shall be addressed. I'm assuming that's both engineering reports from Hawkinson and Bolton and Maine, and then the rest of the requirements below that.
Right, and number, Joe has just alluded to, all comments from the city engineer shall be addressed. Number 2, the applicant shall install fencing to control access. As I mentioned, I saw fencing this afternoon. The parking area shall be maintained free of weeds and vegetative growth. Number 4, handicap parking stalls and signage shall be provided. Number 5, the parking lot shall have signage indicating it is for event parking only. Number 6, the parking lot shall only be used from August 1st to November 1st. Number 7, barriers preventing entry shall be placed when the parking lot is not in use. Number 8, expansion of the use beyond the seasonal nature proposed would require amendment of the conditional use permit or paving and curbing of the lot. Number 9, the parcel shall be combined with an adjacent school-owned property, which it is. So I'm going to open this up for discussion on these points. Rob, I'll start with you.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear anywhere in there about this project requires infiltration of the 1 inch of runoff. Is that something that is is that fixable with the conditional use permit of?
Correct, which I should be covered with item 1 then. They have
All components from the city engineer shall be addressed, yeah. All
Okay.
comments. Okay. Joe?
As a signage and everything, all of these have been satisfied. I guess is my question.
I believe there's a few engineering comments that still, they're working.
Will the runoff?
Correct. Right? Yeah.
So, going along with Joe here on this one question here, I know you can stripe pavement a lot easier than classify recycled base. So how does that striping or a lot designation, parking stall space?
For handicap.
Well, for handicap, how are we going to do that? How are we doing that? How are they doing it?
I don't know, I don't think they can stripe it, they can sign it.
Okay.
But we don't particularly say they have to have handicap stalls in there. They may have them somewhere else on the lot, I don't know. One of my comments was to just lay out the parking stalls on the plans, we, as a city, kind of know what they're thinking and expecting. They have it on a sketch that's not to scale. So that's what my comment pertains to, is just lay out those, what you think for stalls on the plan, that is to scale.
Right, because there's really no way to stripe it, I mean,
No.
not on class 5 recycle. Asphalt, just that, no. So there's really no way to make a designated handicap,
Other than a sign in front
or
of
sign a spot.
Correct.
of the spot.
And hoping nobody. All right, well, not really happy about that, but it's okay. Joe, any further that you have? Okay, Jerry, you're next.
I've got nothing.
Mr. Mayor, one more thing. And I know we talked in depth about traffic flow in and out on this. Can you kind of explain the center portion of 235th and 47? How that's going to get widened to turn into the complex, or is that a county?
On 235th itself?
Not on 47, right?
This is the Rum River.
Rum River?
Yes, Rum River Boulevard.
Rum River Boulevard.
Sure.
72.
Yeah, so in general, the county is in cooperation with the developer, Rum River Bluffs, and they have an agreement with the school district on a bypass lane for that maintenance access. So the right turn lane is in on the maintenance access.
Right, I see.
There's a future bypass planned whenever the improvements to the county road are completed at 235th.
Okay.
But that's really separate from this.
Right, and I just kind of,
But they're going to be dedicated left, as I understand it, at 235th and Rum River Boulevard when that improvement's made.
And so what's the holdup with this one property owner holding out for eminent domain? Is an action the county's taking, I understand? I mean, what is that? Is that for that lane?
That was for the bypass lane, for
Bypass.
this maintenance.
So we don't know when that's going to go in, but right now we have at least the turn lanes in.
Correct. It's my understanding that it would go as part of that whole intersection.
okay.
So, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, one more thing.
Okay.
So in this conditional use permit, is the access to 235th going to be closed off? And I don't know that the city has the right to close off a parking lot that's already in use. They've closed off the new parking lot, but are we making a conditional use permit to close off the parking lot that's already in use?
Well, we discussed that, and I know that Jane Rose from county mentioned her concern about that, because it's so close to the intersection, and that's when this turn lane is a big help there. But, one thing I had brought up, I think in meetings with Chris Wirtz and Troy Ferguson was having a barricade up there so it doesn't, because look, when the event's over, everybody wants to get out. We all know that. That's why your chain link fence is in place, so they don't run over the curb like they were doing before. That's a good thing. But what's them to, if you have that open access to 235th, they may come in on Rum River, but they're going to get out the fastest way they can. That's just what people do. So how to control it, my thought would be either you make a permanent blockade, or during your events, you put a wood barricade up there so they don't go out that way, and we get them back out with some organizations to do that other way. Now, I don't know if that can be done, but the sad part is that that entrance, that in and out on 235th is so close to the intersection, and they're going to be coming around that corner and all that. So, I mean, how best to make that work? I mean, do you have any thought of that, Craig, at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you would maybe close it or make it right in, right out, but I don't know.
Or can ISD have an attendant on hand to help direct traffic to flow smoother, so it's just not all glumped at Rum River or glumped at 235th? I mean, I'm just asking a question. I don't know the answer.
And that was part of why, when you want to come on, get down the protocol.
Come on up. Well, then we'll hear you better. Anyways.
I don't live in the district. I live in the district, not in the...
Well, for the record, this is Troy Ferguson.
Superintendent.
Okay.
So I guess our concern would be that it is an existing parking lot that people have used since those fields have been in since 1991. Yeah, so with the new parking lot, there's no other way that they have to go all that way. I don't know. We don't have any data that shows that traffic all goes into St. Francis either. More than likely, people probably going north of Rum River Boulevard. That's the way that I go when I look at that parking lot. So we would having an attendant that's just trying to answer your question.
All right, but, you know, and I've discussed this with Paul, by the way, on 235th and Rum River. That's a busy intersection. I mean, there's some headaches there. I mean, our job is to prevent stuff the best we can. When we can't do anything 100% ever. So how best to do it and get ahead of the game or ahead of the fire is the best way to go. So.
And I'm not a traffic engineer, I just, if we make everybody leave through that one entrance, is that gonna have an unintended consequence? I don't know, I can't prove it, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I think that people certainly are used to using both exits. And now we got them on the street, they're not parking on 235th. We have the turn lane in, eventually we'll have I saw that it was all, it ground up, looks like they road till all that area that's gonna eventually be bypassed already. So I don't know how long that's gonna be.
All right.
But here, you're asking that is gonna be, that's in the works. We can't, I mean.
And that'll help a lot.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you. Todd, can you give us some input on traffic flow on that 235th and Rum and what you might foresee as far as an event, you know, exiting? I mean, the turn lane's a big help, no doubt. The bypass will even be bigger, but that 235th bothers me with that intersection. It just does.
It gets very, I've attended sports events there myself, so it gets very congested. But I can't say for certain if you directed all traffic out one way, if that would make things better or not. Like Troy said, people are used to using that as well, but it does become very congested. And at times, the 235th does get blocked for people that want to turn off of Rum River Boulevard onto it too. So.
All right, so there's the problem. Now, what is the cure? Okay, so I mean, you know, so like I say again, I mean, you know, I understand what you're saying, because when you have one outlet, you know, then that's going to be a congestion. Okay, that's, you know, it's like two lanes going to one lane. That's congestion. I understand that. But then you still have the 235th problem close to an intersection. So what is the better way? You know, and I understand they haven't thought about an attendant or whatever. Would that help? It's kind of like, you know, you have patrol people. You know, when I drive through Andover or something like that, I'll see some patrol people, you know, stopping traffic, you know, let people do crosswalks. Would that help at all? I don't know. I'm asking questions.
It could be worth a shot. Hard to say if it would help or not. I think the big problem with the sports events there, people come and go the whole, you know, for several hours at a time. So it's not really, there's not one consistent time where people are getting there and leaving. So people can start arriving at 6 o'clock and not leaving.
It's not like getting out of a football game where they're all going for the doors.
Yeah, and because there's several games usually that are taking place at once. So it's a constant flow of traffic the whole night events are going on. It's not everybody's in there in the parking lot settled and then everybody leaves at once. It's, you know, when a game gets over, there's people leaving and coming at the same time for the games that got over, and people coming at the same time for the games that are going to start. So.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. I will say it like this. I mean, the bypass lane is going to be good. The turn lane was a good move, especially timed out like it was. But what I'm going to say to you as part of maybe what we could do with this conditional use is leave it on the table and with your professionalism and see how these events go. If there's not a problem, we just maintain it. If there's a problem, then ISD might want to consider having somebody there on attendance on those special events, if there's a problem.
And we won't have it, it's busy all fall, but it's not, that's exactly right. There are people in and out, you know, we start games, contests, but 4:30 in the fall.
So there's staggered times?
Yes, but, you know, we'll have some soccer on the lighted portion of the, two fields are lighted. So when it gets dark, there's nothing going on the other, so half of the place is empty anyways, because there's nothing going on there. All our, you know, so I understand that there's a lot of traffic, but it isn't like going to a Twins game or a Vikings game or something like that, where it's just a
mass exit, or, yeah.
It's kind of an in and out.
Okay. Is that about right, Todd, in your opinion?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so just understand something, but if we see accidents happening, we're going to relook at this, okay? Just to let you understand that. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know your rules. So.
I know your rules, but we're a little different here.
So I think, you know, by getting people off the streets, parking on the streets, and from keeping them from parking on the other side of the county parking lot, we're preventing significantly more tragedy.
Well, and you've helped a lot with the chain link fence, because, I mean, Chris has alluded to the fact that was a problem driving over curves just to get out. People will take the easiest way out all the time, so I'm just, look, I understand your situation, we're trying to work with you on this the best we can, but I mean, I don't want to be the mayor that has to explain that accident that we didn't do our due diligence either, so I'm just going to leave it open, the fact that I will leave it up to the chief, that we start getting a problem, we're going to address that problem, okay? Okay, so, now, one other thing I want to bring up about this, I have heard that this field is being used, now you're telling me that it's only going to be used from August 1 to November 1, right? And no other times, just that time? Because
That's when we need this, the extra parking. So
Okay.
we use it for, if it gets used for practice in the spring or that kind of thing, it's not our other lot.
All right, so you're talking about major events for overflow is what you're going to be
We
using?
have youth footballs and youth soccer are the those go on the ball.
Okay. All right, from August 1 to November 1. Okay. All right, and Chris, tell me, your part is, you're going to put some signage on a cable or something like that for handicapped, so they know that, or how do you do it?
I believe Paul's already put signs on the fence
Okay.
near the openings, and then there's also signage on the existing lot in the same area, so we essentially know the handicap parking.
Okay. So there's no striping, but there is that designation, okay, because that's important. Let's see here, so we've addressed engineering, we've addressed it all, okay, so basically what you're saying is it may be used at different times for practice or something like that, but for the actual intent that it was designed for would be from August 1 to November 1.
When we meet, that's when we really get that extra parking, so that time.
So in other words, I won't get mad if I come by practice and see 10 cars there, I'm not gonna get upset.
Well, it'd be in the other lot.
Okay, I'm just teasing you. All right, any further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to go on record. I'm really concerned with people leaving and going left. I'm all for exiting on 235th. I know it gets congested over there, but people are going 5 miles an hour. The county stated that that road has bad vision. And for people to come out of the maintenance road and go left into the city, I'm going on record, it's a bad idea. Someone's gonna get T-boned right there because they're not gonna see people cruising down that road going north because people are turning in now and they're gonna take a left-hand turn and they're gonna get T-boned right there. Thank you.
That's pretty much the concern that I have. I know currently I've got a few complaints from a few residents where the existing driveway is being used by people, which, unless it's policed or whatever, there's no way that you're gonna stop people from doing that. But they pull out, almost cut people off, things like that, so. That's irrelevant to the parking lot issue, I think. Unless a big event, you gotta be careful, like you say. If you're gonna get out and turn right or whatever and go that way, that's one thing, but if you turn left, it's a whole different story.
So how about if we add a number 10 onto this conditional use? And that number 10 is going to be, Todd, working with you to understand that, you know, we can let this go down like it is, but reevaluate it if we run into a problem, okay? I mean, I don't believe we, huh?
I don't know if you can do
Can
that
we
once
do
you have
that?
the conditional use.
Can we do
I
it?
don't know if we can leave it open-ended like that. I think you'd have to make a condition that they can fulfill or not
Right.
fulfill.
Okay, all right, all right. Go ahead.
We can revisit it again next, we're coming out with fall season right now, we can take data now and see what's happening. And I just think we're, by having this and having the ability to get people off the street and not parking across the street, we're increasing the safety tendency. We're not having all the push and strollers down River Boulevard or across River Boulevard. So I think I'm agreeing with, we keep the data. I don't know, I'm not aware of the accident rate. If there is one now. I'm not saying there is or isn't. I don't know. We could revisit it again. The whole reason we did this is we're concerned with safety too, so.
Yeah, I understand it. I do have concerns, but,
When we did the first reading, we have to have a second reading as well for the ordinance.
was, I think we had the first reading a while back, that was the second.
That's what I thought, it said first reading.
It says first reading, that's what I thought was the second. So it's been approved. The ordinance change has been approved. So, and I appreciate that, Troy. So
Can we do a 2-year conditional use?
can we put a limit on it or go reevaluate after each year? Because Troy's got a point. And Tom may agree with, after 1 year, you're going to have some kind of track record. You have no track record yet with the changes that you made. There may not be any problems at all, which would be wonderful, but there may be some problems and some fixes that got to go to it. Because I've always said government's a work in progress. You solve one problem, there's another problem to solve after that. I deal with codes every day about stuff like this. So I was saying, so instead of etching this in stone that it's a slam dunk, maybe we should make it so we evaluate it at the end of the year, and then we have some data from the police. They'll have what calls they'll have in that. You'll be seeing some things different at your end. You'll be able to tell us how that works. Nothing would be better to have no problems at all, but I mean, there's always that possibility. We have to think about that. It's like insurance, by the way. If you didn't know if you knew you were never going to have a fire or robbery or anything, an accident, you wouldn't need insurance. We take out insurance because we don't know what's going to happen. That's the name of the game. So tell me, Scott, how can we best do that on this or can we?
So if you add 10, that this conditional use permit shall expire on December 31st, 2018, that sounds like that's what council's desire is, then we would move existing 10 to new 11.
Is that agreeable to you?
Yeah.
And then we could get some data down and look at it, and then we can come back as a group and discuss it and...
We want to see.
Okay, so if there is no problems, then it just continues, and if there is a problem, then we reevaluate, and then try to solve the problems. Is that agreeable with ISD 15? Is that agreeable with the council?
So we'll have to come back for another permit for the next season.
Right.
No, it'll go through December 31st, 2018, so it'll be this year and next year.
Gotcha.
So we'll get 2 years of data on it.
And we'll have from January to whatever, to
August.
the next one. And we can extend it.
That sound like a plan? A little bit of covering everybody's behind? Huh? That's good with you guys? Okay. Todd? Okay, so how is it, once again, how's it going to read then? It's going to be a time frame from till December 31st of 2018? Or December 1st?
So there'd be a new 10, which this conditional use permit shall expire December 31st, 2018. Then the existing number 10, which reads ordinance number 227, second series shall be placed into effect, will become a new 11. Other than that, the balance of the CUP as proposed would be adopted.
All right, that gives us time to get data in and then discuss it and go from there, and hopefully, again, we won't have anything to discuss except that everything went fine. But on the other hand, if it doesn't, we're protecting ourselves and the residents, which is our duty. Okay, I can live with that. Okay, any further discussion? Okay. So I need a motion to approve, adopt resolution 2017-08. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Debate makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bauer makes that second. Barring any further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, ISD 15, for working with us. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see, moving on to new business. Fire Department job description, Assistant Chief. I will turn that over to our chief.
So, one of the things that I've been discovering coming to the city of St. Francis is we do have a current set of SOGs and SOPs. One of the challenges with that is when Chief Dean Kapler was here, he appointed some interim officer positions, specifically the Assistant Fire Chief Terry McDonough and the Captain John Paz. Since that time, we've never had a formal review process of who our current officers are, if the current job descriptions are accurate, and if that's truly the direction that the department wants to go. During my first 5 weeks here at the city of St. Francis, that's one of the initiatives that I have taken on, is to ensure that we have the proper policies, procedures, and the right people in the right positions. We continue to have a focused direction of the fire department. What you have before you today is some changes that I made to the current Assistant Fire Chief's job description. And specifically what I added is some increased requirements. This is an executive level position in any organization. The city of St. Francis is certainly no different than any other city. With that, I increased specifically the years of service requirement from 3 years to 6 years, being that it's an executive level function. Primarily going to serve as an incident commander on an incident. We want experienced, qualified individuals to serve in that position. And not saying that we don't have those people in those positions now, but we do need to do a formalized evaluation process. With that, I also added some educational requirements specific to incident command, supervision, and leadership, fire instruction, so we can again make sure that we're putting the people that have made a concerted effort to go and get educated, to bring some leadership and experience to the city of St. Francis. So that is the proposal before you today. Per the city policy and the fire department manual, this process does work in conjunction with the city administrator. The fire chief does not independently or singly make this process on their own. So to move forward, I would like to begin the process of updating the assistant chief position, soliciting applications.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open this up for discussion. I'll start with Ron.
I read over it. It looks really good,
Good.
and I appreciate the hard work.
Absolutely.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, so far, I think you've been here just a few weeks, and I like the changes that you made. I think that it's definitely a good way to go. And I appreciate your work. I think that you're taking it seriously and taking action, and I appreciate that.
Jerry?
I agree. I think we hired the chief for a reason, and I think we need to follow his recommendations.
I would agree too, by the way, and I think they're common sense changes that make, that for the betterment of the leadership of the fire department. So I think it's a good idea. Excellent. So you need approval from us on this, right? So I need a motion?
Yep, I have kind of a long motion there. To update the job description and then allow the city administrator and fire chief to bring back a recommendation for assistant chief, basically.
I'll make that motion.
I'm
What
supposed
Joe
to
said.
repeat that? All right, I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Meemeyer makes a second. Any further discussion? Barring any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have one question here, while I still have you in place here, and this just goes back into the consent agenda, just something that I want to say. You know, the DNR agreement, I read it all, but there was one thing that kind of got to me, and it was on the last page of it, where they said, let's say, for instance, hypothetically, our fire department goes out to a fire, okay, and you're there, okay, and then they decide not to use you. We don't bill them from that, from what I understand.
So we would bill them for...
Only if they use you. Right.
But we wouldn't bill them with any labor associated costs if we were just to respond and then turn around and come back. So since they initiated the use of the apparatus, we still can bill for that use.
All right.
But we wouldn't bill any associated labor costs for driving 6 miles.
Okay, all right, because it didn't stipulate that. It just said if you know.
And the language is relatively vague
Yeah.
in regards to that statement. I can tell you in my experience in 21 years, the DNR, if they use us.
If they call you, they're using.
Yep, 100%. And if for whatever reason it was an extended deployment and we backfilled our community with another fire department, that backfill is actually on the other community's budget, not ours.
Okay.
So we're getting paid and reimbursed for labor costs and units that we send, and our city still potentially is covered by one of our mutual aid partners at their cost, not our cost.
Okay, so basically, pretty much if they call you, they're going to be using you.
Correct.
But if they don't use you, you're not paying labor, but they're paying for the apparatus now.
Correct.
So we are getting something, because like I say again, it was pretty big.
Yep, and it's actually pretty rare that we get initiated by the DNR. One of the recent events of history is Carlos Avery wildfire a few years ago, and I'm sure everybody remembers that. That ultimately ended up being a pretty significant event, and the communities that were sent up there were reimbursed. Once it escalates again to like a U.S. wild forest service issue, then there's another process that gets deployed. But the DNR is fully aware and is more than willing to honor this agreement when possible. And if there is any questions, they've been more than helpful in my past experience.
All right, good, that satisfies me. Everybody else? Okay. All right, thank you, Chief. Moving on to the Anoka County HRA Request Resolution 2017-20.
Mayor and Council, before you is a resolution on behalf of the EDA to request Anoka County HRA funds for the acquisition of a property in St. Francis. The EDA approved the property acquisition and to request the HRA funds tonight prior to the council meeting. We will be additionally looking into other funds for the costs associated with any demolition. The resolution attached is a requirement of the county to request their HRA EDA funds. This project does qualify for those funds, and the property will be acquired and assembled for the redevelopment of our downtown off of Bridge Street. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, this time I'll open up to Jerry. You have any discussion on this at all?
No, I've got no questions.
Okay, Joe?
No, I was in that meeting, and, you know, I think if the HRA funds are there from the county, and if we have other grants for demolition, I think it's a start to revamp the city in the way that we hope it to be one day.
Rob, I know you're in that meeting too, so.
I was in the meeting. I think this is a great start to our 2040 plan, I think it is, redevelopment plan. It's a great start, and I like being part of it.
And just for the record, for the public, by the way, this is what, you know, the EDA has really been, is created for, in my opinion. It was, you know, it was created back for that lease bond for the Public Works Police Department, but really in theory, and other cities use it, to stage for development and be prepared, so that basically there's not holdouts of third-party entities and stuff like that, so that when developers come in, we're better staged to proceed in development of our city. So this is not, we're not real estate agents by any stretch of the imagination. What we're doing is basically a strategy to be prepared so that we can move forward when the time is right. And just as location, timing. When a developer wants to move, you want to be ready to move along with them. So this is a big step here. It's putting a little different face for us on the EDA, but not in reality on other cities that have used it for many, many years. So I commend EDA committee on their work. Thank you. And of course Kate and that for community development, but I think it's an excellent way to go. I think it's long overdue, and I think it's the right direction. So good job. Okay. So I need a motion to approve resolution 2017-20.
Yep, I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Remar makes that motion. I will make the second. Any further discussion? Barring any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. We got a. Let's see. We'll see. Yeah, meeting open to the public. I think we some people signed up.
Yes, we do. We have 5 people.
Oh, well.
First one, Liz Gervais.
Good morning. Liz Fairbanks, 24360 Unicorn Street. I basically just wanted to say something about 1908. I was very disappointed that there was 2 different things going on. It seemed like we were trying to segregate instead of integrate. And I had a really good time. I went to both of them. I had a really good time at both of them. But I really, I know that the helicopter and everything had to be more open space. And I don't know if the Lions were actually asked to move over there at this time, but if you remember too, everybody was always used to it over at the park. But I just think maybe for next year that there should only be one thing in one spot, whether it be the schoolyard or at the park. Because both of them were great, and I had a good time, my son had a good time. Everyone else I talked to had a good time. So that's just my little tidbit that I feel that maybe next time they should be more together, because I was just super disappointed that we were separated.
Right, and I just want to tell you, and the public too, by the way, that was not the intent of the police department. The other entities were invited over. I am going to take it upon myself to be a mediator and talk to Lions and talk to the Ambassador Club program, rather, and to the Chamber, along with working with, I think Lori and the staff did a great job on our end. It wasn't meant to step on anybody's toes. It's a night to unite, not divide. I agree with that. So I'm going to take it upon myself to get ahead of the game for next year and see if we can work together. I thought it was I thought it was sad. I mean, because I mean, you know, a lot of, and you learn from each mistake. So I know next year, as I mentioned to Todd, I mentioned to Lori too, some bigger signs of where people know how to, there was only that one sign back at that one gate, so we need to make the signs more clear as where to park and all that. And then make sure that it's a united front, I mean, on all levels. So I talked to Tony over at the chamber, and I'll be talking more to him and Jackie too, ambassador and whatnot. So I'm going to take a spearhead on that, and so we can work together to make it better for next year. So, but thank you. But yeah, I was there all night too, so I saw the same thing. So, but once again, yeah. Well, and the sad thing is the staff, with no ill intent, did a great job putting it together. I mean, the military part, which I love that. The fire with the hoses and the kids going up holding the fire hose, I thought it was excellent. And then the hot dogs and everything in that. Next year, Lori had an idea where if we do hot dogs, the chamber can do ice cream or vice versa. It's just a matter of, again, benefiting the whole community, not just one end. So we'll try to solve that one. But you learn from your mistakes, hopefully. So put that together. So thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Sarah Udvig.
Sarah Udvig, 3709 229 Lane Northwest. I just want to bring to the council's attention that there could possibly be a leak in the water fountain at Woodbury Park. We frequent that with daycare kids. I'm pretty sure that my daycare pays for the electricity for that fountain, because every time we go over there, the kids have to throw coins in. But I believe it's on the northeast side. The wood chips are always wet, and there's pooling water down by the
Paul, do you know where that is, or can you make a note of it?
So if
Take a look.
somebody could check that out.
All right. Well, thanks for bringing it to our attention. Okay, thank you.
Joe Morrow.
Joe Brown, 24360 Yukon Street, Northwest St. Francis. I guess I want to address this letter from a county engineer that says an entrance and an exit off County Road 72, which is the one that was already approved, is not a good idea. They wanted to recommend it coming out on 235th. I actually live on that road, I drive on that road, so I see the flow of traffic on that road. And, you know, I didn't see it quite at first when we were talking about at the council meetings about the parking lot that went in until there was an event going on and everybody was deciding to turn left out of it. And they can't see it. And it's going to end up being a poor situation. I can already see that happening. But I'm a little disappointed that they went against the whole traffic engineering manager and went ahead and did what they wanted to do. And then coming into town off of 7th Avenue, there's a speed limit sign that you cannot see because there is a tree blocking it.
Okay, is that county on that road, that, or, you know, so can we notify county to look at that, to cut the tree, or can we just do it? We can't touch it. Okay. And by the way, you know, that's why you had discussion here tonight about our concerns about that too. So I think I don't know if we're all satisfied with it, but I think there's some checks and balances in place with this, with the turn lane, the bypass lane coming, with the fencing and all that. I agree, and we've made it so we're going to reevaluate this, and of course the chief will be looking at this on a continuous basis. So
I figured you'd have a little back off. You're gonna try and go into a guy's nice yard. He's got, you know, 5 decent-sized pine trees in his front yard there that shade his whole yard. And the county wants to come in with eminent domain. They want to chop down the trees. I mean, his grass is pretty much going to be smoked, and he's going to have somebody in and out of his front yard. So,
well,
I mean, I'm a little disappointed at the school district for even doing what they have done in order to, you know. So now, not only is the school district and the county, by that means, not only are they doing what they want to do, but now it's spilling over into a private sector and somebody else's private property. If it was me, I'd be mad as hell.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, it's really a difficult situation. It's a rock and a hard place. I wasn't happy when it was first approached to us. We've had multiple meetings with them. We've put some safeguards into place and some improvements, and we'll continue overlooking it and seeing it. And then, of course, the upside, the correction of it is the conditional use can always be pulled.
Well, and I have to commend most of you up here. You've done a fine job of communicating the last councils didn't take anything into consideration. They didn't care what anybody thought, and I have to commend each and everyone in this room for actually doing a fine job of actually opening up the community to more of a public conversation, even though we don't always agree, but the message and the communication is there. So the open dialogue has been, in my opinion, it has been 100% better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Hunt.
We can always agree to disagree, that's for sure.
Sarah Hunt, 23246 Cary Street, Northwest, and I just wanted to make some comments about the parking lot. My son plays football there in the fall. We're one of those many parents that are in and out of there. This will be our, I think, 4th year now. It'll be his last year in high school, but anyway, long story short. Couple things I'm concerned about. I am concerned that they've never been paved. As football season goes on, it gets incredibly wet and icy and muddy all through that parking lot. And it concerns me that even the first part of the parking lot hasn't been paved since, what they say, 90 whatever. I just think it's something that needs to be done. All the other parking lots for all their other events are paved and taken care of. And I don't think that we should give them any more pass on that. I think both of those parking lots need to be paved. Pebbles and whatever else they put in there isn't enough. My other concern is that I, as a parent, I live on that side of Rum River, off the fields, and closing out 235th would make it, I feel, much more dangerous for me to come out of onto Rum River Boulevard than just to turn back onto 35th to go home. I think Rum River Boulevard is a much more dangerous road than 235th, and so it does get scary, because I know that there are parents that go on both sides, and you park on the side that you're going to leave from. So is there a way to separate the two? I don't know, maybe talk to the school district about separating the two parking lots, like the old parking lot be out 235th, the newer parking lot use Rum River Boulevard, just make it so you can access one or the other, close off part of the parking lot to the Rum River Boulevard area parking lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Closing out 235th, I think is just a really bad deal. I think that road is much safer than Rum River Boulevard. Thank you.
No, and embellishing on that, by the way, this is a conditional use. So, yeah, you can sit down. But on conditional use, I mean, so if they don't follow the criteria of the conditional use, it can be pulled. So it's going to be a work in progress. I mean, we're going to be keeping an eye on it. I can tell you, I will be keeping an eye on it. So, if we see problems with it, and of course, if you as residents see problems with it, bring it to our attention. I don't have eyes in the back of my head, so I can't see everything. But as Rob has alluded to, and other members of the council here, I have concerns here for safety is my main thing, and I know the chief does too. So if you have ideas that can help us out, bring them forth, and we'll see what we can do. But the conditional use is what it is, a conditional use, and they have to meet those requirements and maintain those requirements. Otherwise, we could pull the conditional use, and we will do that. And as I alluded to before in the meeting, this is not a pass anymore. I mean, if they continue to do business like this, they will find the next answers will be much harsher. Whether we want to work with them or not, they will be much harsher. So our idea here is to govern for the majority of residents and the best for them, not one entity over another. So just to get that on record. Anything else, Bart?
Mike Roger.
Mike Roger, 2770 232nd Lane, Northwest St. Francis. About the parking lot, I think we're missing an easy solution to this. We have police reserves, am I correct? Why don't we have the police reserves work in parking lots on those events with IES 15? I know what I did when I was in high school, and if there ain't anybody watching those lots, they're going to be doing the same thing, because that hasn't changed in 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it's been. One other thing I'd like to say, down on 24 in Arrowhead, I'd like to have somebody send my thank you to Anoka County for putting in that passing lane there, because that's been a suicide road when the kids have been getting out of school for the 20 years I've lived up here. So now, instead of looking in my right mirror, in my left mirror to turn left to see if they're coming past me, now hopefully they use that right turning passing lane to
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And as like I say, I mean, we're not doing anything with reserves yet. I'm sure the ISD won't be fighting on that one, but we'll look at it. We'll reevaluate it down the road. So, you know, I'll put it like this: whatever needed to make it safe within realm of reality and reasonable is something we should consider, and we'll have to take it up at that time.
Well, what's the likelihood of getting the reserves out there? I think that's a great idea. That
I think the main problem with that is our reserves are volunteers and they have regular jobs. So trying to orchestrate that to work 4 or 5 days a week that these events are going on at the soccer fields could be a little difficult. I think to get a consistent traffic management out there with our reserves.
Well, you know, let's see how it plays out. I mean, we're going to be on top of it. I know, Chief, you're going to watch it, and like I say, we're going to watch it too. So we'll see how it plays out, and we'll make modifications as needed, and then we'll just see how it goes. If it becomes more of a pain than it's really worth, then I guess we'll have to reevaluate the whole situation. But that's what I look at as of today anyways. I mean, the problem is, by the way, and just once again to get this on the record, the problem is it was so far done before we even got notice on it, okay? The council didn't really know it until the Class 5 recycle base was already there. It was already being used, and then we got notice on it after that. That's what perturbs me the most, and I want that on record, because that is, you know, that's not the way we do business here. Okay, so you come in here after the fact, and now you say, well, you want this and want that. Well, some of these bugs could have been worked out better in the beginning had we all worked together. So we're, you know, again, we put on an olive branch to ISD 15, and I want to work with them, but understand, I'll work with them, and this council should work with them when the benefit is to both sides and for the good of the majority of the residents. That's what this is about. So if they're thinking and our thinking goes in line to make it better for the city and safer for the city, then it's a good thing, but not a bad thing. But I just don't like the fact that after it was all said and done, then you come forth and ask for permission. You know, that's just really bugged the crap out of me. So you could put that down with Meister if you want, though, Mark. Okay. All right. Any further?
No.
Okay, that's it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Police Department report.
Mayor, Council, in your package, you'll see the second quarter report for the police department. Just a couple things to note in there. The part 3, 4, and 5 incidents went up almost 200 calls from the first quarter. And these are the calls that are particularly, for example, vehicle accidents slightly went up, neighborhood disputes, vehicle lockouts, animal calls, nuisance type calls, things like that. So them calls did go up in the second quarter pretty substantially. The other thing to note in there is that in the community outreach section, I just wanted to point out that our neighborhood watch program is really taken off. We're pretty satisfied with how it's going and how many people are interested. I would say right now we're pretty consistently, we're meeting with a new block leader every week. So hopefully that keeps up, and police department's just really looking forward to, we're enjoying connecting with the community more, putting some faces to the police department, getting citizens in on a weekly basis and talking to them about Neighborhood Watch, and it's good to see that interest. We're excited about it. So we're just excited about working with the community in some different ways.
By the way, any specific reason for that increase in the second quarter? Just that's just falls.
Yeah, you know, it fluctuates. There's no specific reason that I can see. Especially, you know, the animal type calls, nuisance type calls, loud music type calls, stuff like that. I don't. There's no specific reason that I know that it's gone up. Maybe summertime, people tend to be outside a little more. People have their windows open, so they might be reporting more.
Okay. Well, I think too in summertime you get people more active and out rather than winter where you're hibernating.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to add something onto this with this report here. As I stated at the last meeting, the police department has a radar gun now and 2 data machines, and they have different locations they will be putting them in. So my advice to the speeders in these areas is don't speed, because you're going to get tagged, and I mean that sincerely. So you know, I've always said, you know, a bark and a bite are 2 different things, but you know, you're forcing us to bite when you're speeding 40, 50 miles an hour in 30-mile-an-hour zones is unacceptable in residential neighborhoods. So if you get ticketed, don't complain to anybody but yourself and your lead foot, because I will tell you right now, they will be tagging coming up, starting now with radar gun and 2 data machines. So be on the lookout for the police, because they will be doing it. So now you've been warned, and I will continue to warn you on that. So I'm tired of seeing what bothers me the most is the complete disregard for the signs. It's like, you know, you're not even looking at signs anymore. They're just driving by. It doesn't even mean anything anymore. but there's kids on those roads in summertime, they're all playing and all that, and it only takes one death to make it bad. I don't want to be the mayor that's explaining to that family, we didn't do enough. And so, don't speed in those areas. If it says 30, do 30. That would be the best prudent thing to do. All right, thank you again, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, I have something for, I got a complaint from your street again, from another resident. I would like to have that mobile monitor up a little bit more in that on that stretch. What's your street?
Poppy Street. That is
Poppy
saying
Street.
there
It is
now.
currently there, and we have been doing radar, several, probably at least 2 within the last 3 days, radar details on Poppy Street.
Okay.
Poppy Street is basically like 1 of 6, I think we talked about, 1 or 5 or 4 streets that we know for sure. I know we got Rum River on that one, we've got Carey Streets, we've got Pedersen Street, Pedersen Drive, and then we got Poppy, so there's 4 that I know of right away.
Yeah, and there's actually a couple more where posts have been put up, or where the speed signs will.
And I want to take the time to commend the chief. You know, I offered to the budgets and that, but you took it out of the forfeiture fund, which again is the police, you know, is being spent on the police department's acquisitions and that, but thank you for stepping up to the plate and getting that radar gun and that second data machine. You know, it took me a while to get that one data machine that was 15 years old updated, so now I've got a second one, and I'm very pleased about that. But the radar gun, and like I say again, we mean business. Stop speeding in residential areas. Drive with some common respect and courtesy makes a big difference all the way around. So thank you again.
One more thing. Does that machine monitor and record speeds?
Yep, it collects data, so we can run reports with it.
Amount of traffic, direction, and all 9 yards. Get a lot of information. So,
It does have that.
not yet. Not yet. All right. On that, I'm going to move over to council member reports. I'll start with you on my left.
I enjoyed Night to Unite. I also went to both places. I did make the suggestion maybe the elementary school have a gate that they could open up that's a little closer there, but other than Night to Unite, I would like to see the helicopters land in the ball field and we really come together in the park. That's just my personal take on Night to Unite. I know there's neighbors that have their own parties, and that's okay, but I would really like the city and the commerce and all the other organizations that come together, really come together in the park and have a good Night to Unite next year. And that's all I have.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I was at Night to Unite as well. I enjoyed myself partially. Again, it was the division of the two parties, miscommunication, whatever happened. I agree with the mayor to have a committee of some sort to somehow bring us all together. That's the whole purpose of it. It was sad to see over there that the crowd was not over there. You know, I was over there for a while, and then I did end up going over to the city side. You know, that was heartbreaking, so I have to echo what Liz said there. Biggest concern for the school district situation with that parking lot is that that's a fast road. Rum River Boulevard, people do come down there relatively fast, and that is concerning, and the last thing I would want to do is to see us approve something and somebody gets killed or hurt. The eminent domain thing, I'm completely against. I think that's ridiculous. Regardless of the situation, I don't like that. But Night to Unite, I think, was great. I think our city's doing great as far as trying to get the development together, so I'd like to commend Kate. And Joe's doing a great job as well. Fire chief, the way you talk at the meeting, it's impressive. I'm happy to see you, and I just think all of our staff is doing a great job. And that's about it.
All right, thank you. Jerry?
You know, I want to commend the council. I was at the National Night to Unite, and historically the council hasn't had a very good showing. We would maybe have 1 or 2 council members there, and I think I saw everybody there this year. So I really want to commend the council. I think showing the community that we're involved and being there and being available to answer questions is really important. So my hat's off to you gentlemen up here. You know, I want to echo the same sentiment as Liz and the other council members that had echoed. I believe historically, National Night to Unite was set up by the Ambassadors Program. It really wasn't to a city-driven event. And then, I'm not sure if that's what happened this year or not, but,
These originally,
you know, what I don't want to do is put a whole lot of city resources into it as far as costing the city money and having another budget item that now we have to budget for, because, you know, once we have a precedent set, it's, you know, it kind of gets to be an unfunded thing year after year after year. But, you know, but I would encourage, you know, having somebody from the city, maybe our fire chief and police chief, and, you know, on the committee, that's whoever's setting it up, you know, between the chamber and ambassadors and Lions and our city organizations, and you know, come together. I think the perception that I got was two different celebrations, and it kind of goes against the meaning of Night to Unite. And, you know, we had some great things this year that we never really had before. I mean, the helicopters, this is the first year that I think we've had the helicopters there.
I think it two is, isn't it?
Yeah, and, I mean, that is cool. You know, I mean, how many kids actually get to see the helicopters, and the fire hoses was really cool. The tug of war, getting the involvement and the participation, I think that's really important. And boy, that kind of PR, you can't pay money for.
Yeah, you can't.
But, you know, it'd be nice if we could get everything together. And so in the future, you know, I'd like to try to, whoever's going to set it up, you know, whatever, you know, I'd like it to be a civic organization, not a city function, you know, because then we got to pay for it and budget for stuff. But, you know, whoever's setting it up, maybe if, you know, invite everybody to the table and get everybody on the same board, that'd be great. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. A couple things here, by the way. First of all, eminent domain. Eminent domain comes with growing pains, okay? Because when you're a small city, you don't have that need. And now as you get bigger and things change, and we are trying to grow here. So I agree with you on eminent domain, but I see a need for it, so it has to be, you know, I mean, you know, again, you know, when you're growing, you know, it's like everything else, you know, that we deal with in like with roads. It's a continuous problem. That's part of growing, you know what I mean? And so I understand where you're coming from, but I just want to put that out. I want to thank our police chief for doing what I think is the most important thing you could do with our police, is make it community oriented. I know you're pushing for that, and that's a big deal. I don't want to see the police be some entity that is unapproachable. You know, we are a city, and you're part of the city. So I think your mindset, Todd, is a good, you know, because I read your stuff in that, and I like it. You know, we go to the JLEC meetings and stuff like this, but community-oriented police is a good idea. I think neighborhood watch is excellent. I think all that makes the public comfortable with their police, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Okay. Todd, Dave, welcome again, as I said before to you, and you know, we're there to support the fire department and get that leadership together, and you're on the right track, I believe, so that's good. I want to say about the again, the parking situation. We're going to monitor. We've got, again, the fences I mentioned before, the turn lane, the bypass lane coming. We got some things to check and balance, staggering times and stuff like that. That's great and dandy. We will keep an eye on it. Safety is our main concern, so we're not going to look the other way. You know, one thing that this council is doing now, if there's a problem, we don't ignore it. We confront it, because if the problem that you ignore doesn't go away, it just gets worse. So we're not doing that anymore here as a council, and I think that's a good idea. We're doing what's right, and that is one of the main things to do is right. So now I want to bring up something here. This is from Councilmember Skordahl, who's not here, but he brought something to my attention of a St. Francis resident who actually went to the high school here, and her name is Maggie Ewan. Ewan, is it? Okay, Maggie Ewan, and she spells it E-W-E-N. So the title of this goes, Hammer Thrower Goes from Minnesota High School Superstar to the World Stage. Kind of interesting. I'm not going to read the whole article, by the way. But she is a St. Francis native, which is kind of interesting. She threw a measured personal best of 244 feet, 7 inches of this hammer throw, which is one of those things you spin around and throw it. I couldn't do it, but anyway.
Like Thor.
Yeah, like Thor. Yeah, there you go, like Thor. 244 feet, 7 inches, and that was far enough to qualify her for the World Championships in London. She's a high school senior here, and on top of that, by the way, she's a senior right now at Arizona State. During her years at St. Francis High School, she won 4 state titles in the discus and 3 in the shot put. This one was amazing. Yet her father and coach Bruce thought the hammer throw might someday be her best event, which turns out to be true. I don't know the size of this woman, but wow, that's all I can say. So, that's unbelievable. Well, I know I can't do it, so I'm saying I want to bring this up because Rich brought it to my attention. I told him I would. So there's a, all you have to do is Google up Maggie, E-W-E-N, to get the whole article. But it is impressive to see. I mean, Lord, I mean that's unbelievable. It's a heavy thing to begin with, but to do that is incredible. So we're on the map. I'll put it like that.
Like we should sign.
Yeah. Well, we're on the map, and she's going to be in London for the World Championships, which will be excellent. So that's great. Thank you. That's all I'll do. So, all right. Anyways, so once again, I just want to say to you that from you do one thing and then you see a problem, you solve it. So, the key is to learn from your mistakes. And out of mistakes, there's 2 ways to go. You can ignore them and continue making the same mistake, or you can learn from the mistake and not make this mistake again. And that's what we're trying to do here as a council, and working with the residents and working with staff in that. As I've stated before, when I first started, the mayor handbook, it does say residents working with staff, working with council for a better city, and I think we're on the right track. I think the city is now going in the right direction. And we just have to continue that flow. So communication's a big thing. If you see something, you got to report it to the police. They don't have radar on their heads. They don't know what's going on all the time. They can't be in all places at once. So report it. Call them up, and they'll be responsive to you. As far as codes and stuff like that, call the cities. I mentioned more than once. Actually, much more than once. So I mean, call ahead. And again, just on the record, I wish ISD would have done that. Had they checked that and not misinterpreted the use of that land, which was not a permitted use, we wouldn't be in the situation today. So we'll correct that problem by much tighter down the road. But I think we've got some good things in motion. But once again, our concern is safety, so I think we're on the right track on that one. So now moving on here into the meeting here, this ends the public part of our meeting. As I said in my campaign about closed meetings, I said the only time we would go to a closed meeting session if it pertained to employment and personal matters as that, and that's also dictated by the state. So at this particular time, we're going to basically adjourn it to the public anyways, so that you don't have to sit around for what we have to go through on this particular point, because this is a closed session here. So at this particular point,
Can I get a motion to go into closed meeting?
Can you make a motion to go into closed meeting? Okay. So this particular...
I'll make that motion.
I haven't made a motion yet, but I'll go.
Okay. You want to just read number 12?
Okay, let me do that. 12 is closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, subdivision 3B, attorney-client privilege to discuss pending litigation in the matter of Gennaro versus City of St. Francis and strategy relating to the same. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Vaden, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.